From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Hi, welcome to Space Brains, the show where we joy watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey and this is Mark.
Hiya. Tonight we're talking about In Paradox. It's a 2019 film available on Netflix, and it's basically about a dude that is being relentlessly attacked, and he seeks to uncover a mystery and stop some unknown memories that kind of are appearing before him.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird, but
Yes.
this is your spoiler warning.
It is.
Just in case you haven't seen this film, we're going to talk all about it. So
Sure are.
before we do, go back and watch it and then tune in and find out what was good and what was great.
Sounds like a great plan. So what was your number one takeaway, Surrey, of In Paradox?
My number one takeaway is there's some fabulous lighting available in Kuwait and also some terrible lighting.
Okay.
There's other
Elaborate, please.
Another takeaway is that you can really have some real psychological issues at times, and perhaps it's best to work your way through it with a therapist rather than just winging it.
Wandering the scary streets of Iran or whatever that he was wandering through for his father's lost house from the old
Something
days.
like that. Yeah, so this movie was a Kuwaiti movie by Hamad AlSarraf.
Yes.
As his debut as a director-writer for a feature-length.
Good on ya. Get out there, make your film.
He's credited with one short before this called Victor, which I have not seen.
Mm-hmm.
However, it did okay at some film festivals, and this movie here was quite a crowd pleaser at the Morocco Arab Film Festival or something.
Yeah, and I believe according to IMDb it was shot in Iran, but it is a Kuwaiti film, and it was released the 7th of November 2019 in Kuwait. And you're right, it did some festivals, got some success, had some...
I wonder if they were on that highway.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Could have
Maybe.
been.
I did love the locations in this. I reckon the locations were really cool. Like you don't see these locations in Western film.
What I liked was at the start, that house, it was all like, I almost thought maybe it was filmed in Australia or South Africa or someplace like maybe up north there where New South Wales and Queensland are meeting.
Mm.
Because there's a lot of trees and things. They weren't the brilliant, vibrant greens you get in Europe.
Yep.
And even in America. And if you're living in Europe and America listening, you're probably going, what on earth is he talking about? An easy way to do that is go check out Google Maps and zoom into Canberra.
Yeah.
People live there. No, it's not a desert. And then go have a look at County Cork in Ireland and zoom in and have a look at that. And you'll see the difference between Australia in summer and Ireland in summer.
All the green.
Yes.
We don't get here, really.
We don't get. We sort of get like a bluish, greyish color, and the I guess it was Iran, Iranian countryside was a little bit greener, but still quite reminiscent of that sort of nature. It was quite nice. It's very different to what you normally see when people show scenes in the Middle East, where they tend to show the deserts and the villages and the towns and cities and things.
Yeah. And there was probably, when you think about like his home at the start and then at the end versus him going into the ancient city, kind of looking for the home and stuff, trying to figure out what's going on, that was more, brown and dirty and dusty and sandy.
There was a more
and
classic, washed out sandstone, limestone-y looking sort of look.
Whereas, and maybe there's a good symbolic look there, isn't there? Because of what the story, what happens in the story. So Yeah, good on Hamad AlSarraf. I mean, look, it's on Netflix, so come on, they don't accept everything. So, it's good. Hopefully he gets a bit of royalties, a bit of money back, and makes his next film that we can...
Well, it'd be good. It's quite an imaginative film and quite ambitious, I think.
Yeah.
It was really pushing hard for the sort of Fight Club, the Memento, the... what's that? What's that one with the murderers? And it's all just the different... Is it 7 psychopaths or is it... Oh, I can't remember. So it's like 7 characters trapped in a motel and they believe one of them's a murderer.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like a closed room murder scenario, but then you find out at the end actually it's this dude who's undergoing some therapy and he's got 7 personalities.
Well, you might have just ruined that for anyone out there.
Yeah, I can't remember what the name of the film is now, but
but you've just given away the plot. It's what a twist.
What a twist! Yes, it was during that time, same with Sixth Sense, the beginning of the 2000s when every movie had to have
that.
The twist. Yes. So it's quite good. So tell me though, this might be a bit trickier than our usual fare. Is this hope, warning, or experiment?
That's a really good question for this one, isn't it? I think that this one would be an experiment, I reckon, because it's sort of the experiment of your mind. And that's what I feel. I feel like it's kind of questioning. It was funny because the opening, you remember the opening of this film, he says,
have you
experienced memories that aren't yours? And it's just interesting because my little short film, The Memory, is kind of based on that concept too. Sorry, just dropping it in there for those out there that haven't seen it yet. But I was straight away, that grabbed me because I'd just been thinking all about this in terms of my own short film and that concept, that idea. I love that idea of, can you trust your own memories, And I do, like you mentioned, Memento. Like Memento is one of my favorite kind of films of that nature, where it's like, a guy with a 5-minute memory and he can't make new memories, and so he's just sort of living this nightmare over and over. But it brings up all of those sort of those concepts of perception and memory and trust in yourself, and that's what this film does. Because again, he's like going on this journey. And he's really going to try to trust his own way of thinking about it. So I think it is a bit of an experiment because it's kind of like the experiment of our brain and our memory and our mind and the way we interpret things and how we can convince ourselves that something is right.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be the warning because we don't have a moving into areas we shouldn't with dire consequences, and we don't. Hope is not one where we're seeing humanity overcome some sort of intervention here. No. So I would agree, experiment. We're seeing a bit of an experiment there. What it looks like or what it might be inside someone's head.
Yeah, dealing with a major trauma moment, I think, or dealing with trauma and then how your brain works through that.
Yeah.
Which is the same as Memento. Guy Pearce's character in that has that trauma and tells himself a story and just keeps and that's the story that's locked in his brain, and he just kind of keeps trying to make that story real. I love Memento. It's really good. And a lot of people hate it. But if you're out there and you see In Paradox and you're listening to us right now, let us know what you thought about, was it hopeful or was it a hope story? Was it a warning or was it an experiment like I think it is?
Or do you think is it just the way you remember it?
That's right. So are you doing it yourself?
Am I engaged actively in sci-fi? I've just finished watching a sci-fi series right. Season 6 of The 100.
Oh, yes. Don't tell me anything because I've just started it.
It's a surprising story. If anyone hasn't seen it, a lot of people get turned off by the fact when they start watching it, it looks like a teen drama.
Yeah, and it does. There's times when the teen drama is there, but there's also a lot of really good stuff in it.
I think there was sort of maybe episode 3 where I was watching it going, this is an entertaining way to pass the time. And then I think it was episode 3. I won't spoil any of it, but this event happened. It builds up, and it just does not go the way you're expecting it. It goes the cool way.
Yeah.
The way that you always wish but kind of hope they don't, but they do. And I went, okay, I have to watch this now. Yeah. And so then I went back to episode 1 and got my wife along. So I said, no. And she started watching it with that same thing going, okay, because it's like a bunch of beautiful
teenagers.
turn up on the planet Earth, and now they're going to romp in the river.
They're going to repopulate.
Yeah, they're going to repopulate. Yeah, like, it's sort of like, okay. And then, yeah, likewise, we got to that point, the same point I did. I think it was episode 3, could be 2.
Yeah.
Don't know. And then she was just like, oh, they didn't just do that, did they? We've got to find out what happens next.
Yeah.
And successfully, this series, it goes on. And the nice thing is that it has some sort of teen drama type elements to it here and there.
Yeah.
But it's punctuated by some really good science fiction, like some solid science fiction there about post-apocalyptic existence, about artificial intelligences and virtual worlds, which you're not expecting. About
artificial intelligence that's kind of, taken over the responsibility that humans couldn't do.
Yeah, and then there's even...
Then the outcomes of that.
Space travel and, cryogenic sleep issues. And then season 6, which you haven't seen?
I've just actually, I've watched first 2 episodes or something. So, yeah, I'm just on that roller coaster.
And that starts introducing some new sci-fi elements, which, likewise, are almost sort of out of left field, but that introduces nicely, leading to season 7, which is already playing.
Yeah, right.
Not on Netflix. So
no, it's available on something else.
I'm going to be getting a hold of that as soon as I can.
Yeah.
Because season 7 is the last season, so it wraps the whole story up, which I can see. I can see the opportunity they're taking.
Yep.
With the way season 6 ends, that they can draw this nice sort of loop back and give us a resolution one way or another. And then there's going to be they're trying to get a spin-off going of a prequel back, the original wars that sent. So the 100 starts with a colony of people in orbit around Earth, and they send down 100 people to Earth.
Yep.
And so the prequel is about the war and troubles which caused this colony in space to be formed.
Yeah, right. Cool.
And yeah, so that's quite good.
One thing I like in it as well, which you just didn't touch on then, is kind of because it is about this post dystopian worlds, which is always cool, but it's like they've in the 100 they've made them very, like, when you had that scenario of the 100 sending the 100 good-looking teenagers back to Earth, the people that had lived on Earth, like they'd created these little microcosm cultures, and because it's like TV series that goes on, and now we are up to season 6, you really got to sort of, those cultures were explored, and the show itself, without spoiling anything, has a couple of time shifts where, it goes forward 5 or 7 years or something. And I really liked that because it's kind of, it enables those cultures to grow and significantly change a bit, and the people to change. And so that's always a really cool thing when in TV shows, I think, that are successful, they can explore those narratives further, can't they? A little bit like a book can. Like a book can do that,
I mean, season 6 is after some like space travel.
Yeah, for a couple of for 100.
Because they started in space.
Yeah.
And they went back and forward to space a couple of times to various things, but then season 6 significantly sort of there's some space action there.
Yeah.
And so it's that's what I really like about it, is it's not just a drama or an action show. That there is significant and important science fiction details where the stories would not be able to happen, and the character development wouldn't happen without the science fiction elements. Like if you took those science fiction elements away, you would struggle. You'd be really reaching for metaphors.
Yeah.
And stretching those metaphors pretty thin in order to try and simulate those situations.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's something pretty good. I mean, otherwise, creative-wise, I'm still slogging away this short story, which is now becoming a novella. Sorry to say. I have trouble with short stories, it seems. And I am looking at doing some more sound recording. So audiobooks.
Yep.
Going back to having a crack at that.
Right. Cool.
Harder to be an audiobook narrator. So if there's any audiobook narrators out there, yes, rest assured, I have some knowledge now that it is more difficult than simply reading a book.
Yes.
The number of times you slur words or just say the wrong word when you read it out loud, it's kind of frightening.
It is. That perception idea, I think.
Yes.
What is reality?
Your voice starts wearing out.
Yeah.
By the end of the chapter, you're sort of not as fresh as you might like.
No.
And yourself. So we heard a bit about the memory.
Yeah. That's gone out. I've entered that in its first festival, which is really cool. It's really exciting. So hopefully that gets selected. That's a local one, CineFest. And I'll be looking just into a strategy of some festivals over the next 12 months before then it can just go online. And it's really then on to the next project, really. So just in the writing process of that now. There's a couple of short film ideas. They're going to be quite different to the memory. Just developing them right now.
Are you going to get any ad sponsors? You do some product placement?
No. It's about the...
Oh, geez, what movie was I watching the other day? It was all ad sponsors.
Well, like Back to the Future is always a really good example of ad. They like even play off those ads, don't they? The Pepsi ad and stuff, and Pizza Hut.
I'm trying to remember. I was watching a movie the other night with my wife, and the number of times this person looked at their watch, and it was a clear, brand name on it, and then they got their car keys out, flipped, and they looked at it for some reason they keep looking at things, and there's like the emblem, and then they open the door, and then the car rolls off smooth as silk, and they got a drink at the bar, and the bottle comes over and held.
Has to be a Jack's or something.
Held carefully positioned, and it got a little bit painful at how obvious it was, even though it wasn't a comedy where they're trying to do it. Yeah.
No, that's right. Here at Space Brains, we get paid nothing. Well, I get paid nothing. And so we need that, sponsors. We're not taking the sponsors at the moment, are we? Sorry. Influenced. We'd take them, but we could be influenced. I could be
Spielberg wants to pay to be on to promote his movies.
Yeah.
He's certainly welcome.
Definitely.
There you go. Okay, so back to the film.
Yes, we should get into In Paradox. So we'll talk a bit about the plot. So as you mentioned, it is written and directed by Hamad AlSarraf, I'd say.
Yes.
Correct us, Hamad. Tell us that we're wrong.
Feel free to get in here.
Yep. And look, there's a bunch of actors that when you look into them on IMDb and stuff, I don't think they've done anything majorly.
Yeah, sort of some TV shows, one or two movies here and there.
Yeah, so they're all actors, and they've been acting obviously in a long time, but maybe just not recognisable, coming out of Kuwait. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good to see them all getting into this. This is Hamad's first feature, and new actors coming to this first feature. It's good to see.
Yes, definitely.
Some of them did a couple of really good scenes in there, which I'm sure we'll hit on as we go through.
Yeah. So, as we said before, we have this opening image. The main character, middle-aged man, he's driving a car. And I really liked this because we have that quote, "Have you experienced memories that aren't yours?" And I was like, okay, you're getting me. This is my kind of thing. And instantly he's driving. It's quite green and lush environment, and it just flashes, and he's in this sort of really open desert landscape, isn't he?
Yeah, and he gets pretty confused.
Yes, as you would. And he sort of pulls the car over, and it then just cuts back, doesn't it? Back in the forest.
Yeah, he's in his some house or other. He's he's either trying to sell a house or buy a house, or I'm not sure what.
Yeah,
but he's talking on the phone about sort of things.
Yes, and this masked man enters, and they kind of have a bit of a rough and tumble,
bit of a struggle. Which struck me at the time. I was like, that's a bit. Is that common? Is that I mean, if I saw some dude walk in with a mask, he had a scarf
around his face,
around his mouth, and it's like, is that what bad guys wear? I don't know. It just sort of looked like a guy had, but I don't know, coming. But that's kind of part of the things because we learn about him later on.
But anyway, so he actually, the main character, gets kind of knocked back, and he lands back in the chair, and I think he passed out by memory. And he has this weird ass memory with there's voices echoing around, and he's like in this room with a large desk, I presume like an office kind of space, and he opens a drawer and there's a watch and there's a notebook and there's the ring of consciousness.
Yeah, the Notebook talks about this ring that was made to have all of the power of everyone or something or other, and it didn't make any sense to me. I'm like going, gee,
very
that's
confusing.
kind of peculiar. That's very like Lord of the Ringsy type of
That's
thing.
what I thought.
It almost sort of sounded like the Ring of Power, like, and it would give him the power over something or other, and I was confused.
Yeah, which was fine. Like,
I think
part of the movie, you're only a few minutes in.
I got the feeling that this movie was going to continue to be confusing.
Yes.
The whole memories of your own type of thing. So, he gets this book, and then he jumps in his car and drives off. There's not really much explanation about that.
No. And he arrives at this other house. I know there's a bit of a weird thing that he enters, and it's a bit of an old, like, you get the feeling that he's an old friend or something like that, because they kind of greeted, and the daughter goes off, and she brings him back tea. I think she brought tea or coffee. Yeah, and he's talking to the father. He's talking to the friend, and he passes him this letter that came from his father, and the letter tells this friend he should actually tell him everything about them.
Yeah, don't interfere with him finding it.
Yeah, let him find it. But what does he do? He does the opposite, doesn't he?
He tries to tell him. He says, you don't really want to do it. No. It's very difficult. It's not where it used to be. Things aren't the way you think they are.
No.
But eventually he goes, okay, you might be able to do it, but it's a pretty dangerous part of the city. And the daughter, his cousin or his niece or whatever it is, the old man's niece, says, oh, no, look, I'm a journalist and I can get you in and I'll be your cover.
Yeah.
They know me there, and I walk around doing journalist stuff all the time. And he sort of agrees reluctantly. He doesn't want to, he's going, if it's dangerous, I'm not sure I want you getting involved. And I was wondering if that's going to get a little bit sort of, you're just a woman-y type thing.
Yeah.
It never went there.
No, it never went there.
It was still just, quite honestly, and you're sort of going, dangerous. What do you mean by dangerous? Which we see later on is reasonable. Because, again, this is a Kuwaiti film, and I'm not sure where this city was supposed to be set, but it was somewhere in the Middle East. It's like those nondescript Western cities.
Yes.
Like The Matrix was set in.
Yes.
Which was filmed in Sydney, but it wasn't set in Sydney.
No, it wasn't.
No, so
just a big city, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was the same here. They didn't give us the setting specifically, obviously a big city. We cut from there to, there's these two men, and they're discussing this property.
Mr.
Saif.
Yes.
And one's the mayor. The mayor.
The mayor, he says the government is going to offer you double for half.
Yes.
And Saif says, no, I'm taking the whole lot.
Yes. And basically what's going on is a good old-fashioned, like, power.
Yeah, the government never offers this to anyone.
No, we were just talking about the government offering some money right now to build.
Which to me sort of sounded funny. It's like, I'm not sure how frequently they offer it is an argument for me to accept it. Like,
yeah.
Surely the amount would be but anyway. Yeah, so he refuses. In fact, he pulls out a bit of blackmail.
He does. He suddenly
shows him a black envelope, and the mayor peeks and closes it and immediately opens up and signs the document, hands it over to the guy.
I liked that because the way the power play was going was it seemed to be totally the mayor was in control.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden that guy, Yusuf, was it Yusuf or Sif?
No, Saif. Yusuf was the police officer.
That's right. Yeah, sorry. So he suddenly flips it on him, doesn't it? And it was like, oh, okay. There was a good little twist to the power play that was kind of, normally we see in a lot of the American movies, the mayor, they're going to be the winner.
Interesting, I find the symbolism when you think back on this scene from the ending, and we can tell you the ending because we've already given you the spoiler warning.
Spoiler.
So this is his brain that's going on here. So this property is the brain or the mind, the personality, and the mayor says, "Oh well, let's just
carve it up,
split it in half." And see if later on he goes to say, people say, are nostalgic about the old ruins.
Yes.
But I say, I'm building new memories.
Yes.
So then you sort of got this idea that basically the Saif character is the one that is trying to reconstruct the brain new. fresh memories, forgetting Dad and the past. And the mayor
wants to hold on to.
Mayor is kind of
the past.
Stuck in the past, and he's a bit mean, but it's pretty cool.
It is. And we're told his father's house here is on a very special property. So I kind of just took note of that. I was like,
in the old city.
In the old city. And you already mentioned this, but the young woman, she overhears the conversation and she offers help, and he sort of doesn't want it, but then goes with, as you said, the journalist.
Yeah.
Journalisty thingies. I'll be a journalist. That sort of makes sense.
Yeah, Layla?
Layla? Yeah, I think so. Right.
Or Lena? Or...
Yeah, Layla.
Layla. Yeah, so Layla's sister, in fact, runs the motel there.
Yeah,
they go and stay in, and her sister's sort of sitting there puffing on a cigarette in a little holder, and really faintly, because I was wearing headphones listening to this, but you can hear just a little bit of music in the background, and it was so well done. I don't know if they intended that this way, but the backgroundedness of it, or the positioning in the speakers, which I actually took my headphones off to hear if someone in my house was playing some sort of music, because it sounded like it was so removed that I had to check. So I thought that was pretty. I don't know how intentional that was, but it certainly was the effect that occurred.
And this hotel manager, the sister
of, the cousin, sister of the niece. Well, this was confusing because Layla was the niece of the old guy
who was the friend
who handed the letter to.
Yeah.
And his father referred to him as my brother, but it was unclear whether that was literal or simply
friend.
Just saying, "Hey, good friend, hey, my brother."
Yeah, bro.
Because if it was really the brother, then the niece would
be cousins.
Either be cousins or his sister.
No, cousins have to be.
Only because they didn't say it's my sister, but it's the same relationship, and then but they wouldn't really be related because at some point
we didn't get Ancestry.com.
My grandfather's
access here.
This was my grandfather's, which if they were cousins, then they would have had the same grandfather. Right?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So I'm guessing that wasn't real. Anyway, no. Yes, they're in the hotel having a discussion.
Yep. And we go from. I just wanted to know, she was really good, the hotel manager. So I'm not sure what her name was. Do you know what her name was? Was it Thoraya?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought she was really good. I thought she was a really good actress, or actor, I should say. Sorry. I thought she really nailed it. She had the steely eyes, and it felt like she was hiding something a little bit, you know. And
she wasn't cautious of
everything. Very cautious of everything, but she was willing to help them and. Yeah, I just liked it. It felt like there was substance going on with her. So I really enjoyed her performance, actually, and she repeated that throughout the film. We cut to the mayor, and he wants to do this thing about reshuffling the government positions. So this poor fella inside his brain, the poor bugger, he does need some help, doesn't he? He's thinking about the government too much.
It's not very interesting to just think about government shuffling positions.
No.
It's one of the driest subjects you're going to come across.
Yeah, I think so. That part of the brain probably should be.
But anyway, he wants to go find his father's house.
And she takes him to the street of this ancient city, and they're kind of looking, and suspiciously she doesn't seem to know where they're going. And he's a bit confused. And I was a bit confused about that as well.
Where she stops and looks and goes, "There's no street signs." They literally found the place where the streets have no name.
Yeah. They have.
I always wonder where that was.
Here it is.
It's in the Middle East somewhere.
It's in this movie. Okay.
Or in this guy's brain.
And he does a bit of a sneaky trick, which is marking the wall. So I liked that. And they're trying to go deeper down the rabbit hole of this ancient city. Excuse me. But they're not really, succeeding.
And this was the more typical Middle Eastern scene that you're used to seeing. Yeah. Where it's like bullet holes and crumbled
walls, and everything's really tiny and cramped. It's just sand and limestone and no greenery anywhere. So I suppose when you think about it symbolically, we're deep in the bowels of his brain, aren't we? You know, the real dusty part of his brain.
The old
city. And so the government, they want to find the father's house too. and they want to they deny him access. So we have this scene that I joked about before that I sort of experienced in Africa as well myself, doing a film project there a few years ago. But it's like you speak to government officials in some of these countries, and you're like in here, he's like, come back in a month. The manager's not here. I'm not happy about that. I want to speak to the manager. No, no one is above me. Yeah. And generally in the real world, it means you have to bribe them. You have to give them some money, and then they bring out the manager. So it's kind of quite different to our kind of government system here. And here you just got to wait a month.
Yeah, well, here it's the case you fill in the form. If you fill the form in exactly correct,
yeah,
and then you hand it back to the right person, and the right person isn't like a special position. It's like there'll be 10 people who all work the desk.
In that same desk, yeah.
But if you get the right person, they'll look at it and go, oh, yeah, I can help you. Oh, you did that a little bit. That's fine. Here you go. Bing.
Yeah.
And then 5 minutes you're out and you go, that was the easiest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yes.
You get the wrong person, they still look at it and go,
no.
I don't know about this form. Where did this form
Where
go?
did you get this form?
Hang on. And they walk off and they come back and says, you didn't put your middle name here.
Yeah.
What's your middle name?
Yeah.
I know you're going to have to start a new form. You can't, because this gets read by a computer. And then you're like backing around in circles and you signed a little bit outside this box that has to be inside. Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's like to apply for something, so you have that document that the government gives you and you fill all that out, but then you need all this other documentation to prove it. My wife and I went through this once many years ago. It's like, and we did exactly what they said. And then a month probably did go by and we get the letter in the mail, you've been denied. Yeah. And that's all it is, right? So get on the phone, 2 hours on the phone, waiting to get to speak to someone. Oh, the form that you filled out was the wrong form. But we got mailed that form when I rang you the first time. Oh, well, yeah, you got sent the wrong form. Yeah, I will send you...
You got the wrong person.
I will mail you the right form right now. Okay. You sure you're going to do that? Yeah. How else can I get the form? You can go down to the government agency, but, you can be waiting there for a whole day. Okay, well, mail it to me. This guy mails it to us, and I get the form. I look at it. I'm like, this is the wrong form. So I actually had to still go down to the government agency. It was just like, oh. And that happened a few years ago. And the system's sort of designed so that you walk away. I don't mind this idea of bribery. I wouldn't mind going into our government agency and
be a little bit quicker.
Slipping.
Slip 100 crosses.
Get you further down the field. But anyway, we don't have it. But I love this sort of attitude that he has, and he's not happy about it. And when they leave, the government worker does call someone higher up. And is that Youssef?
No, that's the mayor.
He calls the mayor.
Says, yeah, he's got a document.
Yes, he's got this bit of paper.
The document. I assume it's supposed to be like a title deed or something?
Yeah.
It was unclear. It was just referred to as the document.
The document. And so him and his cousin, Layla, argue over her not knowing the way, and I think he stormed off.
Well, he says, I've got to get a coffee, and she says, yeah, there's a cafe just down there. Which, again, is suspicious, because, you know exactly where a cafe is from here, but, yeah, okay, so...
He then investigates on his own, and he gets... Now, this, I reckon, is one of the coolest things. I think they did this really well in this movie, is when he got these weird-ass memories, it was a real shuddering, copying, filtering effect of him as a person. So it's like he's there on screen, and he kind of it's almost he's being split by his atoms, across the screen.
Yeah, there's this weird sort of
mirroring
and almost a watery effect around it.
Yeah, I really dug it. I reckon it was amazing.
The actor himself, I think he did quite good job. Those parts where he had to act agitated or confused, he did that really well.
Yes.
Which is
pretty much the whole movie.
Yes, but
the whole movie.
I can't remember which scene it was now. There was this one scene there in particular where he's I think it might have been in one of the scenes where he's in the hotel.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's really struggling with his memories and he's agitated. And I was just watching the actor and I was thinking, it's a really good job.
Yeah.
And every time he went into these other memories again, he'd sort of wobble on his feet and his head would wave and he'd stagger about and his facial expression and things. Very good. This could be his niche.
Yeah.
Confused actors, because you get actors, they get some actors get the the niche of being the crying person.
Yes.
You know, they're really good at getting a good emotional, not pathetic cry.
Yeah.
And some people are shouty.
Yep.
And some people are determined.
Yeah.
Like Bruce Willis, he does that tight-lipped, sort of squinty-eyed, determined look, and he does it. Comedy, drama, romance, everything. He always does that same look.
Yes,
because
that's his look.
He does it well.
He does. So you're right.
So maybe that's his niche.
This is his niche.
He should put on actors, on his little actors sheet. Good at looking confused.
So he gets this weird ass memory, which is not much. It's a shutter and it's a flicker and whatever in one of the rooms, and then this weird woman kind of appears. And she's, I mean, I kind of put it down as a mystic, and I can see on IMDb they're saying Gypsy is the name of her character. And so but that's what she said. She seemed like this kind of she seemed like this kooky,
she had like the
crazy
bracelets
sort of,
and jangly bits and a flowing red. And
she was doing a bit of a weird ass dance and stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she shows him a shape, doesn't she?
She says there's a second shape, because when he went confused, he looked at a wall and there's like this circular mandala-y type pattern.
Yes, yeah.
And then she says there's a second shape, and he says, what is it? And she does like, I think it's maybe McDonald's. So, but now I'm thinking about it, it's actually the heart.
Yeah.
She drew a little heart in the air.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was the heart.
But I thought it was two arches or something, because when he
were you hungry at this time?
Well, no, because he walks out and he sees some arches across the way with a gap in the middle, and he goes,
in the ancient city, there's a McDonald's,
and he goes through there, and that was the drive-through.
Yeah, they're everywhere, so they're probably inside.
He's the first customer they've had in about 50 years, but that's like,
oh, you're back. What do you mean I'm back? I've never been. Oh, whoops, I'm not going to give away the ending. So then, he kind of chases her voice. I made a note of that. So she was like whispering that, and she seemed to disappear, didn't she? Like she kind of appeared and disappeared and that sort of stuff. So then he finds himself in this. It's kind of like a tunnel thing, and there's government officials.
Yeah, they come.
And they come. Yeah, they come. One come. I really liked that shot. It had a really long tunnel. And one guy comes up behind him and one comes up in front. And they say, you have to leave this area immediately. Like, you're not allowed here. And he does. So then he's back at the hotel, and he tells her everything that happened about this woman. And they kind of have a discussion about that. And she thinks they should go find this woman again. So that's what they do.
He's convinced that she knows more.
Yes. And this bit, I must say, I got a little bit confused, because all of a sudden they went looking for her, and they do find her, and suddenly he confronts her with a knife. He kind of wants to stab her.
That's sort of one of those.
I was surprised.
A couple of scenes in this which kind of jump, almost like going, why? Where did you get a knife from?
Yeah,
like why is he confronting this woman with a knife? And it does actually tie in a bit with the end there.
Yeah, I think so.
With the fact that he stabs that dude, because it's that same knife he's got that he's threatening her with. And we find out that she's the heart.
Yeah.
So, like, there's some sort of tie in there that when he killed that guy, he stabbed his own heart because his dad. Anyway, I'm going to assume that that's what it is. But yeah, she leads him on though.
She does anyway.
Totally unafraid of this knife.
Yeah. But
kind of respecting it.
Yeah.
And takes him along down another tunnel, and she says over there, and he turns around to
have a
look, and she disappears.
She vanishes again, and then this picture in the wall kind of comes alive, so to speak.
Yeah, he gets another one of these sort of circular marks, but different pattern this time.
Yes.
And
then he is back, like he's back in reality again. And she tells him, "You are ready." Yes. The mystic woman. Then men appear and confront them, and they take them to Mr. Safe. Yep. And he tells them that he owns this old ancient city. He's the owner.
Yeah.
And he tells them about the family, that his family used to own all of this property back in the old day or whatever, way back. and it was sort of slowly removed, and then now he's spent a long time kind of bringing it back underneath his power.
Yeah, and the main character. Do we have a name for the main character?
No, there's no name.
No name. Well, that's good then, because it's not me just forgetting.
No,
which is common. But he is like I've heard that before, and the fellow this is where he talks about, yes, people want to bring back the old way, the old city, and they say there's a lot of history there, but a lot of memories there. They have a lot of memories of the old city, but I'm building new memories, and I guess that's true. But that's my argument as well. I mean, how many historical sites do you really need?
It's a good moment because Saif basically, he says to him, take your document you have and drink it. Yes. I really like that line.
That probably is one of those translation things.
Yeah.
What a peculiar thing to say.
No, but I think it's right. It was basically like, take it and shove it up your ass. Like, it's worthless. Like, I think there is a bit of a language difference.
That must be a thing to say, to take the document and drink it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's either a cultural language, and look, anyone out there that speaks Arabic, a few of my past students spoke Arabic. I could probably run it past them, but it's like I felt that was a very powerful line.
It worked. In fact, this is one of those cases, or it could incidentally be one of those cases, but when you're doing writing of any sort, people talk about avoiding cliches, and one good way of avoiding cliches is to take a common phrase but end it differently.
Yeah.
So if it's like, take this document, shove it up your ass.
Yeah, that's the traditional way.
Yeah, then you're expecting it to take this document and drink it.
Yeah.
It shocks you because it doesn't fit your pattern. It gives you that little mental kick which makes you remember it better. And so, I don't know, intentionally or not, it works in that same way that you're expecting the usual bad guy talk of what you should do with it, and you get a slightly different version, and it's nice.
And basically he's saying to him, leave, don't come back, or your life depends upon it. Like, he's literally threatening, which is a good beat of the story, because it's like, we're at this point in time, we're thinking he's looking for his father's place, he's looking for all these answers, his life is a bit like, these memories are happening, things are going a bit skewy. If we don't know the ultimate truth of the story yet, so it's like he's in this forbidden city that this guy owns, and he's like saying, stop this investigating, or I'll come down on you really hard. So I'll come down on you like a ton of elephants.
Yes.
Just taking up your advice there of spicing up the expressions. So then back in the market, they look for a particular place. I wasn't actually too sure what they were looking for here. There's this really old man in the street.
I'm guessing it's his dad's address. He asked the market stall holder, the carpet dude, who just kind of looks and walks away and leaves him. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then there's a guy sketching.
Yeah.
An old dude.
And he gets harassed by this real threatening guy, Yusuf, which we don't 100% know, but this guy kind of appears and he's a bit of a nasty pasty.
He kind of reminded me of like a nightclub bouncer.
He did.
He's tall and kind of had his hair back, and he's looking kind of like a night out on the town, but he's wearing like the black jacket, which looks a bit more formal or something, like as security. It was an odd look, but it gave me that same feeling of like a bouncer. He had the same attitude.
Yeah, it felt like he's the bouncer of the town, right? Like it kind of felt like this is his neighborhood. Yeah,
and it's he turns up and basically starts harassing the dude, the sketching guy.
Yeah,
you're
no
playing
reason.
deaf. And it's like threatening him. And then Layla says, hey, Yusuf, give it a break. And Yusuf is like still getting up and being all tough. And then the old guy, not the old sketching guy, another old gentleman, watch repairer, leans out the window and says, hey, Yusuf, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? This is not like you. And Yusuf looks a bit abashed about this, like goes, oh, okay. Hands the charcoal back. It would have been easy for him to chuck it on the ground and discuss and all that, but he hands it back and sort of walks off a little bit put in his place.
Yep. So they go in and see this watch repairer into his shop, and he warns him of a brave man looking for his old home.
It's a brave man who farts in Tijuana. Let that sink in.
Yeah, I know. And he's basically, again, it's like at this point in the story, there's lots of warnings, isn't there? It's like, leave this city or I'll kill you, like that's safe. Then it's like Yusuf rocks up. He's like the schoolyard bully, like if you continue, I'm going to push you around. And then here it's like the watch shop owner is telling him, the city lost its mind many years ago is his line actually. And he says, and he's like basically warning him, if you go looking in here, you may
disappear. He said, a young man came in here.
That's what I was just saying before when you did your joke. He says that he warns him that once a young, brave man came looking for his old home, he came and then just vanished.
Yes, and be sure you don't disappear too.
Yeah.
Oh, spooky.
Very spooky.
And I love the look of that watchmaker dude.
He was great. He was really great.
Real characterful face and features and the way he spoke. That could be his niche, is the
Totally.
the older gentleman providing dire warnings. It's just I liked it then. And I actually like even better his second scene that he has. That's one of, I think.
Don't spoil it.
I'm going to put it as my favourite scene.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you why later.
So then back at the hotel, the sister warns them not to continue. She gives them a stern warning. But when Layla goes away, she tells him where he can get help. So a little bit of,
Yes, but don't take Layla.
Yes. So looking out for her sister or her cousin or whatever we tried to work out before. And then we have this scene with the mayor that Yusuf asked Yusuf to let him search for his father's possessions. So, he's kind of like a bit of puppetry going on behind the scenes, a little bit of,
Yeah, because Yusuf, I think, was also seen to be working a bit with Saeed.
Well, it seemed like, it seemed odd to me that it's like, so he's the head cop or something, detective, but then he's like this bully. So what the hell's going on there, it's a bit of...
He's the mayor's bully. He's also Saeed's bully. It's
just a bully.
Something's going on.
So he brings back the watch to the watch guy. So is this the scene that you're thinking of?
No, it's okay. Maybe it's this was a pretty good scene though too.
Yeah. And he's not interested knowing the people involved, but what he wants is the truth, and he's willing to pay to get the truth. And the watch shop guy is, hesitant. He's not keen on this, but then he is willing to help. And I did like this. I liked what happens here. So they take us to this.
Well, he handed him the watch and said, "Would you buy this?"
Yeah.
He says, "No, this is priceless."
Yeah.
So no.
And this is kind of really nice and mystic, this next scene. I liked it because it's like this really old man is sort of sitting at this table in candlelight.
This is the one I liked. This scene is beautiful.
Yeah, and then like the watch guy comes, and then it's like the main character is just kind of watching them as well. He's not there.
Yeah, the really old guy's like sketching.
Yeah.
Drawing like a map, clearly, of some sort with his charcoal. And then it cuts over and we see the hero watching, confused, and the watchmaker comes in and says, yes, explains to him that it is you've got to there's used to be a lot of ways in, but there's only one way in. And he goes, and what's this? And he said, well, this is your way in, and that is a labyrinth.
Yeah.
It's the labyrinth? It's the labyrinth. It was created a long time ago or something, but yeah, there are high walls around everywhere.
And he warns him, he goes, once you go down there, there's no way back.
Yes. Bit dire, really?
Yeah. That's what I mean, like there's a huge portion of this film that's like, really just like warning, don't go there, don't go there, don't go there. These are all the reasons why you shouldn't go there.
This scene though, this is one of those scenes where I think the director and his cinematographer, they did really well. The lighting in this, it looked like an artwork. You see that old guy sketching.
Yep.
And like, he's got his hair out in all things. He's all creased up face. If you took a freeze frame there, it would look like, a portrait entered in a competition.
It's a beautiful shot.
The colours were lovely. This sort of green jacket the watchmaker was wearing. The other guy had I think it was a sort of a blue coloured thing, and the candles were providing this soft golden light. And I was just looking at it going, this lighting scene, and I was noticing a number of other scenes throughout here. There's a few of them there where it just gets the lighting and the camera position just beautiful.
I think the lighting was the best kind of camera code of this whole, film. Like the lighting was incredibly done throughout. Like at all scenes, the lighting is really good. Like even early when he meets the friend of the father, and tells a letter, in that scene, that is so well lit.
Yeah.
And so well, like you say, the cinematography composed, as in we have a character in a chair and everything behind it is nicely soft focused and it's all kind of relating to the character. And then even when she brings the tea in, we're sort of like, they're nicely shot, nicely composed.
Because there were a couple of in-between scenes where actors looked a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Like they sort of were just standing there facing each other, not sure what to do. And it did give an impression. I can't remember what movie it was I was watching that scene. The same sort of feeling. Some of these alternative movies where they stand there and someone says, so you have to turn left at the street. Maybe it's Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Where everyone is just this wooden...
It's really,
like, you go down there and you turn left. Oh, I go down there and I turn left. Yes. You go down there and turn left.
Don't turn right.
I will go down there and I will turn left. That sort of a conversation, which, like, sort of a little bit jarring. But then you get these gorgeous scenes where light is streaming and there's a bit where he's pushing a hatch up and the camera's down below at the bottom of the stairs looking up, and as he starts pushing the hatch up, this beam of light shines through the dust particles, and it's just
gorgeous,
high definition magical scene. And then because he bursts out of there out into that stark white lighting of the old ruined city, it's great. But so out of this, he gets his map.
He does get the map, and it pretty much so he grabs the map and goes, and then he's walking through like a construction zone.
Yeah, there's big trucks, there's diggers and stuff going
and
down,
loaders and all that sort of stuff.
And you can see the gap in the wall, which must presumably be the one way you can get in.
Yes, yeah, but very quickly he's arrested.
Yeah, there's guards there, and they tell him, "What are you doing? Turn around, get out of here."
And they arrest him. Layla gets away, so she escapes. Then he escapes. And there's a good old-fashioned kind of chase scene, isn't there, through the sort of construction site.
Oh, yeah. Well, he does his little trick to get in where some other dude turns up with a backpack and a hood up and distracts him. But
and so
Yusuf is not tricked.
So they do escape. And then we cut to... And he's escaped and him and Layla are kind of hiding from the guards or whatever, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're in the sort of building. And then we cut to Yusuf, and in fact, he is working with Saif. So this is where it's like,
in this case, he's like saying,
So he's a real bad guy. And he's telling him that take them to the right place. That's Saif. Like, so it sounds like it's let them kind of run through the rabbit warren, and they'll just get to the right spot, and they'll be fine. So back to our main guy, he's looking at the map. He tells her that Layla, she should go back, like don't keep coming down this path with me. The guards are looking for them, and all of a sudden there's a guard that's like right there. He sees broken glass, and so he kind of comes in, but then he kind of takes off. So they sort of run down this line, and it's kind of like he sees the guards, so they're kind of heading down a particular path, and the gypsy, the magic woman, the mystical woman, suddenly turns up.
Yeah.
It seemed a bit suspicious.
Says, go down this way, go down this way. And he's arguing. And we see it from Layla's point of view, and she can't see who he's arguing with. Yes. So he's like, he's a bit nutso. That's okay.
So he's just arguing to no one. That's what it looks like. And then they all get caught, and Saif confronts them and tells them what to do. And he beats him up. That's right. He beats him up, gives him a good punch up. And then he threatens them. And then I did find this a little bit weird.
Yeah.
He threatens them, and then he just explodes some diggers.
He pulls out the button and he presses it and blows the diggers up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
he's trying to say a message. He's like, you just keep going.
But you'll notice it was wrapped up, and then they made him touch the button.
Yeah.
So they're going to frame. And they said Yusuf is trying to pick up the package because we know that he's the police officer. So they've got like demolitions, and he says, yeah, the story's going to be that you blew these things up, and we've got your fingerprints on it. So you're kind of screwed.
Yes, you are. I just found it a bit random, but I took it as him sort of saying, well, yeah, now you're screwed. But it just felt like such a weird thing.
It was sort of all out of the blue, wasn't it? Kind of, well, okay.
Because it's a massive big
do
explosion.
they just do that regularly?
Yeah.
Like blow stuff up? Like, I don't know. Seems unlikely. You wouldn't be able to do much construction work if you get blown up there.
No, if they're just blown up. But anyway, it made sense, as you said. They're framing him, so they're raising the stakes, that he's now in trouble with the law. And is it Yusuf that stabs him?
No, I don't.
It's a henchman, isn't it, I think? It's another guy,
some other dude.
So as they're kind of getting ready, Saif and that ready to leave, he just stabs him. And this is where he says that line that you said earlier, he says that he's destroying memories, building new homes.
Yeah, because he says it a couple of times in different ways, and that's...
Yeah, so I think he says it differently here, but that's what I took note of that. I thought it was a good line.
And this is where they go, leave them, shut the hatch.
Shut the hatch, out. And then, of course, they escape from the hatch.
They escape. And we get that beautiful shot up the staircase, pushing this hatch open.
Yeah.
And out they go.
But him and Layla have a bit of a fight, and he leaves on his own. He walks, and as he's walking, he suddenly has a memory, one of those shuddering memories again, and passes out there. And it's sort of like he's like leaned against a wall or something. He's kind of having a little bit of a seizure almost this time.
Yeah, and well, he stumbles around, and there's like these voices telling him, I told you not to come here, you shouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And it's all weird lighting, and he finds a little hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And he grabs like a little something.
Yeah.
And I thought he'd found the ring.
Yes.
Which I thought that's strange, just sitting in the wall like that. And he shoves that into his pocket, and he collapses, and just as some of the bad guys find him.
Yeah, Yusuf finds him. And puts him back in the hatch, I think, doesn't he? Or into a prison.
Into a prison room of some sort.
Yeah, another prison room. So he wakes up in this other prison that's right, there's voices saying, wake up. And so that's what he wakes up to.
He's in a blank room, and he bangs on the wall, and you notice that one is hollow and one is solid.
Yeah.
And he goes along and he opens like a little hidden panel, and there's these rings, and it's each of the shapes that he saw and was led to with the strange woman. And he lines them up like it's a little puzzle. I thought, this is an interesting Indiana Jones moment.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
And he's sort of lining up the memories of how it should be.
Yeah.
I think it's the final middle piece, and he pops it in, the door clicks open.
Yep.
And he goes into a study. And in that study, and I like this, all the books in this are all blacked out.
Yeah.
So there's all these bookshelves everywhere, and every book is just black cover, matte black cover. And at first I thought, okay, they just didn't want to show any book titles. But I have a feeling it's actually more in keeping with the whole theme. They're black books, so they're not
real.
They're not real. Who knows what's in them, type of thing. But there's a box on the shelf that he opens, pulls out. That's clearly the ring, because it's a ring.
Yeah.
A little black square set in it, which matches all the black books, and he pops it on his pinky finger for some reason. I don't know.
And it's like he can see, like you're saying, the room with the books. He can see through the wall a bit, isn't it? It's like a bit translucent or something.
Mr. Saif, who had been all Mr. Powerful up until moments ago, is tied up in a chair.
Yeah.
And Yusuf and the mayor. And the mayor is talking to him, and we get to see what's going on in this, where we discover the mayor has all these photos of Saif setting the explosives and bombing it. So it's been a turn, a double agent. Yusuf has been a double agent here, and has thought that, and Mr. Saif thought Yusuf was setting up our protagonist.
Yeah.
When in reality it was framing Saif for this explosion. And then they say, well, we've got the original photo of that black envelope. We've got the original copy of the black envelope. Still not really saying what it is. I have no idea what it is. I'm going to guess that it's a picture of his dad or something.
Yeah.
Something that would trigger his true memories. Yeah, and they finish their gloating about how
they all double cross.
It's all going to be, beer and Skittles for the mayor and I don't know, razor blades and lemonade for Saif.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
he using the ring.
Grumpy protagonist, he clenches his hand.
Yeah.
And then Saif starts choking or struggling in pain.
Yeah.
And he does this a couple of times. He gets a feel for it, and then he just rings the life
Gives
out of him.
Saif a bit of a 1-2.
Yeah, he dies, and then the mayor goes and checks him and goes, oh, okay, well, chuck him outside.
Yep.
I figured, he mustn't be dead, I guess.
Yeah.
And also at this stage I was thinking, this movie's taken a remarkably magical turn here. This ring of power that lets him...
Well, we were told about this.
Crush, so I was mighty confused at this point going, where is this film going with this?
And in enters Layla, but now she's different.
Yeah.
Now she's the Black Widow.
Yeah, she's it's explained that she is a journalist now, and hands her the documents. Says now you can finish your complete story of Mrs. Saif with full permission.
Yeah,
which earlier she had been going on about how she was a journalist and she could do what she wanted, but clearly not.
Clearly not. No. So yeah, she's sort of double crossed him.
Yeah, had sort of been using him to get the story of Mr. Saif, which has been more dramatic now that he was, fallen from grace. And
that's right.
So
and the mayor wants the ring not to be good with it, of course. He wants it to take over the minds of the...
Yeah, so he could do what's in their best interest. They don't even realize what's in their best interest. Yep. And this, of course, suddenly I was thinking of what... This mayor is not the mayor, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's like a real confrontation between these two. And I'm thinking, is he supposed to like the devil?
Yeah.
Or,
I was really some sort of mystical character or something.
Yeah, because suddenly he knows about the ring. And and when he was the mayor normally, he was kind of a little bit, he wasn't that forceful.
No. Yeah. Whereas now he's
a bit meek, but now he was really full on. And then he just starts whacking him with his stick and punching him and knocks him to the ground. And then and you find out the mayor is the voice that's been hearing in his head, been taunting him. And then another voice comes in and says, listen to your heartbeat, slow down. And he does.
When he overpowers the mayor, there's like some moments, he sees some moments, doesn't he? Some memories, which are from the film, but we didn't see them they're little different scenes, like they're little moments that happened. And I don't know what you thought, but I was like, they're the moments that he had the memories. Do you know what I mean? Like, so in the narrative we saw when he had the memories, like for example, going from in his car, the forest to the desert, it's like, but he still was in his car in the forest. That's when that moment happened. And so he's now shown some of those moments, and he's like a bit of an angry man, isn't he? He's like yelling at people and telling people off.
I was getting a real Fight Club vibe.
Yeah.
That like some of these angry people that were yelling at him was actually him yelling.
Yeah, like that's exactly right. I thought the same thing.
It was confusing because it was
confusing.
Similar scenes to what we'd seen, but he was often the one shouting or being forceful.
Yeah.
Or there was a couple where he was being set upon, but I was at that point I was really going, is this like a Fight Club thing? And it kind of is a Fight Club thing, but then it was something else. I'm going, is this? Is he? Oh, and he talks to the mystic woman then.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. She appears.
And she says, they're all you, aspects of you.
Yeah.
And then finally he looks at her because she's very different looking.
Yeah.
He says, well, what about you? And I was expecting her to say, I'm your therapist. But she doesn't.
And we're doing well.
She says, I'm your heart.
Yeah.
Which
is
I thought,
really nice.
Yeah. So that's nice.
So it's like all those characters, Yusuf and Saif and the mayor, they're all just him, versions of him.
Yeah, stuff that...
Parts of his personality.
Parts of him that he's expressed, but now he's confronting internally.
Yeah. So then he walks in on a memory of his father, and this was, again, shot so beautifully.
Yeah,
the father
so the
carving the light, and it was really nostalgic looking and really deep, dark shadows. So it was another really beautiful lit moment in the film. And he's carving the pattern, isn't it? It's the same pattern, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm sure
it's the pattern that he put together.
He put together. And he's like carving it, and so then they have a bit of a conversation, don't they? About
a nice moment.
Yeah, a father-son moment. And then this man comes in to attack, right?
Yeah, he's got the scarf wrapped around his neck. He's carrying a knife.
Yes.
And
comes in and
I started to go, oh, I can see what's going on here.
Yeah.
But then old Grumpy Bum, that's what his new name is now, that he's been revealed, picks up the knife.
Yep.
Letter opener, maybe?
Yeah.
Which is the one he threatened his heart with.
Yeah.
And then stabs a dude.
Yes.
Which I thought, geez, this guy is a little bit wound up, isn't he?
Yeah.
And his dad just goes, what the hell have you done?
Yeah.
Because, okay, and I agree. He's like, fair enough. Like, his dad has tracked the money down.
Yeah.
And his dad takes a knife off him, as you would do to your son. You say, well, give me that thing. And then walks a second guy, this time with a gun, who sees the knife in dad's hand, the dead buddy, shoots dad.
Yeah.
And Bucko Grumpy Bum drops back into his chair, stunned, like, oh my God, dad's just been shot because of me getting all grumpy and stabbing someone.
Which makes a lot of sense, because that's what it's sort of saying, this traumatic moment that is kind of locked.
It was sort of at this point here where so much of the film starts to come in.
Yeah.
And then he's sitting there just sort of...
But it's
crying.
back, isn't it? The chair's back in the house.
And, things start... He fades out.
Yeah.
And then, like, sheets and things...
That's right.
Fade in over that. And then he fades back in.
Mm.
And he sort of stands up and comes out, and he's back in that original house in amongst the trees.
That's right, yeah.
And he walks out to the cars, and a fellow walks up to him and says, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I'm sorry. And he goes, what for? He says, oh, well, I've been, I'm painting your house, and I came in with my mask up because of the fumes, and you thought I was a thief. And so this is the first scene we had where we see, where he had his first sort of weird memory moment and fell back into a chair. Only this time we see the extended version where the painter is like asking him, are you all right? What's going on? And he goes, oh my goodness, I better go and get some help or something. So he leaves the house. And so we get that sort of circle around and we go, oh, okay. So, and he asks how long it's been.
Yeah.
And I was like,
oh, this morning or something.
This morning, yeah.
Yeah, so a few hours earlier or something.
Yeah, so we realize that he's lived this entire fantasy.
Yeah.
After having been, I guess it's a PTSD flashback.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're all about, being fortunate enough not to have such a thing. But I guess that's the idea we've been given, is that he was confronted with something that was similar enough that it
triggered this.
It brought up all of his trauma, and he had to live through it.
Yep.
And I think we get the feeling, though, then that he's kind of made peace with a lot of things.
Yes.
He's confronted the death of his father and accepted the guilt, and realized that, he's been a grumpy bum. And I assume he drives off and lives happily ever after.
Yeah. Maybe, because I guess that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, it's those Yusuf and Saif and even the mayor, like, if they're versions of him, and the memory of the father, like, if he just stabbed that attacker, that thief, maybe that's he's got, he's quick to attack people.
Yeah.
He's quick to yell at people and stuff like that.
He defeated Saif and defeated the mayor.
Yeah, so maybe he's going to be a bit of a changed man going forwards.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I like to think of this.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell. Maybe he'll just go seek a bit of therapy or something.
So that, and then, it drives off, and that beautiful big house behind him, and the end. Roll credits.
Roll credits. Of which I could not read.
No, neither could I.
It's shame.
So, where does this go on your ladder, Surrey?
This one here reminded me in many ways of the work of Drew Casson. That is Hungerford and so Hungerford and The Darkest Days.
Yeah.
I'm putting it firmly in that sort of territory. Yeah, so that was, I'm going to put that in there, sort of just under Darkest Dawn. It has that same feeling, like Drew. If you've watched The Darkest Dawn, and the first one, Hungerford, but Darkest Dawn was good to watch after Hungerford because you could see that growth.
Yeah.
In direction, but it had that same thing. You had some really, really good, thought out scenes and great little bits of action and some excellent premise and ideas. But you could see then that there was an awkwardness to some other scenes where there was not as much experience in these things. Because, and likewise in this one, I had a similar sort of feeling. There was a couple of scenes that were just gorgeous.
Yeah. And
the actors just did a really great job. Like if you had just seen that one scene, you would have gone, wow, this is a really good, director and writer. But it was sort of hung together with a couple of awkward scenes where you sort of feel that maybe they could have done a couple extra takes, that sort of fumbled picking things up and that sort of thing. So in that same area, I reckon old Hamad AlSarraf. I reckon he's got some real potential coming up for him. If he can, he's got that real strong premise.
Yes.
It was very out there. It wasn't a safe, easy job to do this story.
No.
This was not a simple romantic drama or a trip down memory lane. This was an attempt to really twist things and use a lot of symbols and imagery. And as I said, there was a couple of scenes in there where there's some real paid real attention to camera positioning and lighting, and so it's going in there. Number 20, the new number 20. So it's certainly, I think it's well worth having a look. Particularly if you're looking at trying to portray stories or think about stories that are a bit more complicated, and particularly if you're looking at getting some lighting and film setups. Yeah, so that's what I think. What about you? Where would you shove it?
For me, it's going at the bottom. But again, this ladder is an ever-growing thing. And so kind of coming in after the space between us, for me, I've got as number 25. So In Paradox coming in there at number 26 now. I felt that the story here was fantastic. I felt that so much of the film language was awesome, like you keep talking about and we spoke about in that detail. It's one of those ones that I see this a lot in many films where you just kind of think, wow, the lighting's great, the cinematography's great, the sound's great, the settings are great, the actors are fantastic, but then just something isn't quite right with plot points and something isn't quite fulfilling me as an audience member. It's not quite ticking the boxes. Maybe I also, like with that opening about the memories, being that I'm coming from someone that's interested in that side, my expectation went boom through the roof, and then it didn't quite hit that, along the path. I think he's done a great, I think he's got a great idea here, and I think it's been really well executed. It just, some of those plot point moments for me, I just got a bit lost, as in, and it had nothing to do with the language, the language is fine, the subtitles are fine. I didn't feel there was anything like out of context, but it just, some of those scenes just didn't quite have enough drama in them or something, it just didn't quite rift it up, or it didn't quite lift it, like the expression, like I was talking about before, like what I was saying, there's quite a few scenes in a row where he kept getting warned, and it's like that old Alfred Hitchcock, like turn the screwdriver, turn the screwdriver, turn the screwdriver. And that's what I mean, that they were turning the screwdriver, but I think it needed to ramp it up to another level. And then all of a sudden you get to that moment where, we're exploding the diggers and you're going to be, you're going to be convicted for that, And then it's like, and I'm going to stab you. It's all of a sudden, all the drama was in one scene, so just for example, and I'm not saying I'm the expert here, and I might be totally wrong, correct me, but maybe he could have got stabbed earlier in the film, or maybe the fingerprint thing could have happened earlier when he was pulled into, Saif's office or something, so suddenly the drama ramps up a lot quicker.
I have to admit, there was a point in here where I was looking going, so what this is about a greedy property developer?
Yeah.
Like, why is everyone saying this is so terrible when all he's doing is redeveloping some home? Like,
yeah.
What appear to be shattered ruins.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I get that the warnings, the dire warnings, all the rest of it. And I was like, so far, it just seems like a greedy property developer story.
And you make a good point there, because this has been done in a couple other films like Total Recall, is the same premise. Like, the big dictator of Mars, we'll just turn off the oxygen. We'll just take back that land, And it's like, so you could relate it to here. It's like, we're going to take that, but it's like, where are the people?
Yeah.
If that guy was bulldozing homes and there was people living there, suddenly that ramps up the drama as well, doesn't it? It's like, it puts a time crunch on it. Like, if you don't solve this problem, I'm just going to bulldoze over these people, and suddenly you're like, oh, now it's not just one guy looking for his father's memories. If he doesn't find the ring, or he doesn't find his father's house, which has the answer, which will then also save these people's lives, like suddenly it ramps it up,
But I did think a lot got saved at the end when it was
too.
all explained. And it was the explanation was confusing, and then suddenly it became light, and I could then look back at all these other bits that I was looking like the blacked out books, which up until right at the very end, I was sort of going, they couldn't afford scenery, I guess.
Yeah.
But in reality, you go, no, okay, this is inside his memory. He doesn't remember what the books are on the shelves. Like the books on the shelves were not part of his recollection.
They're not important,
So it'd be really interesting to see if this guy got a bit more money and a bit more time and a couple more features.
Yeah.
He certainly seems ambitious, and it'd be great.
But it'd be great.
And if he wants to come on and talk about this, I'll reach out to him. I don't know what his English is like, because my Kuwaiti or Arabic or you see, I don't even necessarily know what language I speak in Kuwait.
Arabic, I think.
I think sure that they must. I mean, my one of my friends, she's part where's it from? Saudi and part Pakistani, or oh god, I'm going to get punched in the face for saying these things. Totally getting it wrong. But she speaks like 5 languages.
Yeah.
In order to keep up with all of the cultural groups she has to pass through.
Yep.
Because which is, she keeps apologizing, saying, "Oh, well, look, I'm sorry if I say this quite a little bit wrong, because English is not my first language." And when she first said that, I went, "It's not," because she speaks purely perfect English.
Yeah.
But then I saw her speaking to her husband, and there she is. She's talking. I can't remember what it's called now. A dialect of Pakistan, which is where her husband's from. And then, she was speaking to her sister in what I'm guessing was Arabic. I'm guessing. And to me, she just went from one to another transition smoothly. So maybe in Kuwait, maybe this guy speaks better English than I do.
Yeah, he really might.
It wouldn't surprise me, because my English can be a bit rusty.
Nope, that's exactly right. So, Hamad AlSarraf, if you want to get in touch and let us know what you think,
get on here. Tell us what you're up to.
Correct us about what we're talking about, and your intentions.
And tell us what your next movie is going to be. Is it going to be sci-fi? Because we'd like that.
We do. We'd like to see the next one. Do you want to talk about a favourite scene from the movie at all?
I think I mentioned that it was the scene of the drawing the map.
Yeah.
What I liked about that was it was sort of it was a little bit surreal because suddenly there's this guy, sketch drawer, who seemed to be a bit of a background. He's in this room, and the lighting, it's just like this rich, dark room with golden light shining just right, illuminating faces.
It was beautiful. I loved that.
It was just perfect. And there he's sketching away, and
you couldn't really see what he was sketching, but we
see the map, the clockmaker dude standing there as well, and he's got that color green jacket he had on, just fits so well, and it had that real feeling of almost like a dream, but it was so vivid, and it was just it was just perfectly like that scene would have done, like if you put that in the Matrix, Keanu sitting there talking to a couple of people, you have that same sort of surreal, otherworldly feeling to it. And only I think the Wachowskis would have liked to have that lighting and camera work for one of those scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I reckon that was a really beautiful shot too. I'd like that. For me, it's like the best scenes I just think were the ones where he had the memory. When they had that shadowy copying, duplicating, kind of breaking him right down and splitting it for him to cross the memories. I thought that was really cool. Like, I just thought that was a really visual way of showing someone, experiencing that, like having this kind of delusional moment in a way, because he had to transport from one moment to this memory, and that's what they were implying to us. And I liked that, because that quite often can actually not get done in film. They just kind of do a jump cut, or they just kind of, they might do it once and then the next time they don't do it again. Whereas here they showed us that each time. So it was a really cool, symbolic, visual, visceral. I could feel it. Like, it felt like, and as you said, he was doing that great kind of confused terror look, as you would be, because it's sort of like his world was changing. I mean, I still think that start of him driving along and just, the jump of the town, it's very David Lynch, that kind of idea of like flicking from one personality to another. And, I really dig that. Like, that really gets then straight away my brain tries to think, what's going on here? What's happening? And it's not all just explained to you. You can see it happening. And so it feels much more like they're showing us what's going on, which I always think for film has to do that. So I love that. I reckon any of those moments where he had that memory experience, they were really cool.
Yeah. So if you've watched the film, and you probably should have if you've gotten to this point, otherwise you've just had it all ruined.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think your favourite parts, or what the best bit
the best
of
bits.
It was.
Yeah, hashtag us in that. Let us know what you think about it. So sorry, exciting times. What sort of science do we want to discuss in this sci-fi in paradox?
Just a brief one. Psychology is an ology, therefore it's science, right?
Okay, yeah. That's a science.
Some people would argue that maybe it's not. Maybe it's making stuff up.
Well, those people.
But having said that, it's not really.
What?
There's a lot of theories and competing ideas of the way things work, and it's hard to generalize from, the observation of a few people to all humans.
Yeah, of course. But that still is science, isn't it?
There's some interesting studies into hallucination and delusion.
Yeah.
And I was going to look at multiple personality. There's this whole so-called multi-personality disorder. There's no actual I don't think there's a disorder that's actually called that. It's I can't remember what it was, but I was going to look that one up because there's been a couple of famous cases, but it's basically so rare that it's questioned as to whether that's truly what's going on or if it's some other branch. But delusions and hallucinations, schizophrenic delusions, are very definitely real, and
totally.
And they're the fun ones, and I use that term in quotation marks, that everyone likes to pick on in movies. where they walk into the asylum and there's the person who thinks that he's Napoleon.
Yeah.
There's always someone
Yeah.
who pretends to be Napoleon.
Well, I'm constantly pretending to be a podcaster.
I'm always pretending to be a father.
Yeah. That's a weird thing. I've never seen you with children, so that is weird.
Probably best not to. They fall over a lot. If you ever wonder why they're not going to get to university, sorry. But anyway, it's quite interesting, and there's been a lot of studies into this because the question gets asked is, can you know if you're delusional? Because this is the whole one of the whole things about a delusion, and I guess mental illness in general is it gets classified based on whether it interferes. So every day we all carry various minor delusions, and we all have little minor hallucinations. Right. We think we heard someone call our name, but maybe it was actually a bird in the distance.
Similar sound.
Yeah, similar sound. We just made it up, or literally we're just really tired and we see little flashes of stars, or we have little superstitious actions that we kind of believe in. They're sort of these small delusions. The question comes along though: is at what point are you actually able to determine if you're having delusions to the point where they're interfering with your normal existence? Because that's where I did psychology actually as a major at university for a bit, and one of the things that they said is abnormal behavior psychology comes in is usually drawn the line where it interferes with someone. So if someone walks along and occasionally hears little bursts of music or thinks someone's called their name or
how much is that affecting their life?
If that doesn't prevent them from being normally social, having a job, being able to live a fulfilling life and all the rest of it, they're not going to be classified as having what you call abnormal psychology. Yeah. It's just a quirk at that point. But we do get to the point, though, where people really cannot distinguish between their fantasy and reality to the point where they do dumb things or hurt themselves or hurt other people or just can't look after themselves properly. And are we able to determine when that's happening? Because when you ask them, they don't appear to. So people have tried to figure out, well, how aware are they? Are they just kind of making it up? Or are they truly 100% absorbed in this new reality?
Yeah, I saw a recent program, Louis Theroux, where it was dementia. I know dementia is a different kettle of fish to, what you're specifically talking about. But some of those things you're saying, like with delusions, that's the thing on that. Like he in that program, he had people that were quite old and had dementia for a long time, and they were in very heavily cared facilities, but he also had a husband and wife only in their 50s, and the wife has been diagnosed with dementia. And interviewing the husband, it's like, she'd had it for about 3 years at that point. She was still very much a big part of society. She did things. They had a child together, so she was doing things with the daughter. But it was getting already to that stage after 3 years of being diagnosed that there was certain things like she couldn't use her phone anymore. She just couldn't ring a number on it anymore. And she tries to do it. Like he gets her to try to ring him, Louis Theroux, and she's like, and she kind of laughs and giggling. You do it. So, like she goes to her husband. Her husband's like, this is the point. This is exactly what. But then she does all these other things perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But that part has dropped away and she can't dial a phone anymore, which means, of course, what happens if she's home with her daughter and there's an emergency? She can't dial the police or an ambulance or something like that. Yeah, so that's what you're getting at there, aren't you? Is that once the delusion gets to a particular point that it's, overtaken the lifestyle of a person.
So the interesting study I found, which is, it's a bit tragic really, but it's still...
a lot of this stuff is tragic.
A bit comical because it happens long enough ago. So in the 1960s, the psychologist Milton Rockich, I guess that's how you say Rockich, he did the 3 Christs of Ypsilanti. So he wanted to know what would happen if you took 3 people who each firmly believed that they were Jesus.
Jesus.
And then basically put them in a big brother house. So put them in to live together and observe them. You've got three people who are each absolutely, and they've been diagnosed here at this point of not just saying they're Jesus, but taking actions that you would expect a person who fully believes themselves to be Jesus would take.
Walking on water, performing miracles.
There's concerns that they're going to try and walk on water or
turning water into
heal
wine.
the sick or goodness knows what. So we chucked them in a house together and watched to see what happened. Because he wondered how the three men would react when they realized there was more than one Jesus. Because as that Dire Straits song says, there's two men say they're Jesus, but one of them has to be wrong. In this case, two of them had to have been wrong. All three, probably. So rather than some dawning of reality, Rockich observed that each of the men retained their delusional identities while at the same time rationalizing the existence of the other two. One of the men, for example, thought one was a liar and the other an angel rather than Jesus himself. And there was a more recent study in 1997. It studied a group of psychiatric patients experiencing delusions and hallucinations. Now, the patients read individual case stories about people experiencing a range of pathological states of mind. They were asked how likely it was that the scenarios depicted a mental illness. So the patients who were most fixed in their own delusional beliefs were able to distinguish between descriptions of delusional and normal beliefs. However, they could not identify anything erroneous or pathological in their own thought processes. It would seem, therefore, that the capacity to identify hallucinations and delusions in other people might be greater than the ability to see them in oneself. And I find those really fascinating, is that it draws to mind, there's another story of James Kimmel, not Jimmy Kimmel, that we all know and love, or don't love, depending on who you are. James Kimmel, he is a neuropsychologist or a neuroscientist of some description, and he was doing a study with a whole bunch of brain scans because he was studying psychosis. So
yeah, right.
So a psychosis is one that is a pathological condition where you don't know that you have the problem. So a neurosis is, say you are compelled to scratch your knee, but a neurosis, you know that's not the right thing you should be doing. Like, it feels wrong, it's wrong, you can't quite help it. And the difference there is it's easier to treat a neurosis because by knowing that it's not the right thing, you can do behavioral therapy and feel things. A psychotic case, however, and this is the case with what we'd call a psychopath, is their experiences seem entirely normal. Like the fact that when they see someone in pain, they go, oh, I don't care. They have no feeling about that. They don't feel that they should. They might get confused wondering why everyone else is showing sympathy. Why is everyone else running over there to find out what's wrong? The guy's broken his leg. Whatever.
Who cares?
Get over it.
Move on.
So
this guy's Jesus.
He's Jesus. Get over it. Oh, he's turned into a dad. That's what's. No. So he was studying the brain scans of people with psychosis, and he found a pattern. He found there's activity or lack of activity in a certain part of the brain which has to do with processing of emotions with events.
Right.
And so he's going, well, that sort of makes sense because that's one of the primary indicators of someone who is psychotic. They can't connect the emotions with actions.
Right.
So, if they stab someone in the heart, it's like putting on their shoe.
Yeah.
And I'm generalizing there, of course, but there's that connection. And in some cases, the connection occurs much later.
Yeah.
For example, they might days or weeks later go, oh, that was terrible. Oh,
reminds me of a
toddler.
That. Reminds me of a toddler. A toddler's
it's a bit like that. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Whoops.
Oh, oops. But in these brain scans, he put them aside and went, that's really good finding. So there was one research paper he wrote up, and then he was looking at dementia, and he got a whole bunch of dementia patients, and then got his own friends and family in to scan, to compare. And he was sorting through, and he found one. He went, oh, this one's been mixed in from the wrong pile. I must have mixed it in from my other research. This person's a psychopath.
Right.
Their brain scan is a psychopath. And he's looking, he's going, well, okay, I better check. So he double checks, triple checks to find it, because it's all double blind. He doesn't know what these scans are.
Yeah.
It just definitely finds out that he's got a psychopath in amongst his dementia group.
Right.
Only problem is, none of his friends and family have dementia. So they were the control group. So he says, someone I know is a psychopath,
Right.
which he thought was really interesting because this is what he studies.
Yeah.
So he finally went and got this. He cancelled that study and got unblinded. It was his own brain scan. So he just diagnosed himself as a psychopath. And he thought, well, that doesn't seem right. I mean, like, yeah, I've been crappy to people sometimes, but overall, I'm not violent or murderous or, he was a respected doctor studying neuroscience, and he had a wife and kids, and, he was not what you'd call a psychopath. So he called up his friends and family, contacted them, and said, I did this thing, and I found out that my, a brain scan came up in our friends' family group that said psychopath. And he said, everyone immediately said, oh, that must be you. He said, everyone identified it as him immediately without no question, oh, who could that be? It's like, and he said, oh, you all knew? And I said, well, now that you say it, now that you say that you've got a diagnosis, yes. And he says, yeah, okay, so he's thinking a few times, he's going, well,
that time I had that bloody body in my...
Well, this is the thing. He's going, well, he's never been violent to anyone. He's got no criminal convictions. So he asked, and there was one...
Never too late to start.
Where his mother basically said, yeah, well, what about that time, for example, when my brother had died and we're all going to the funeral and you couldn't be bothered because you wanted to watch the football game? And he goes, yeah, it wasn't a very good game, actually. But then I started to realize that, because that my mother, her brother had died and I didn't go to the funeral and I was more interested in a football game, I could understand that would probably cause her grief.
Yeah.
It didn't cause me any grief. I didn't care at all. It didn't affect me.
Yeah.
And so he says that, yeah, he's able to recognize when situations should cause an emotional response. And he can understand that people do have an emotional response, even if he doesn't. And so he says he's basically sort of been on a course of therapy where he pauses before, as often as he can, and he's really mindful of his actions and how he's responding, and then starts calculating all the emotional responses everyone might be having or who they, and so he tries to then do the right thing, and he's
yeah, so he is a psychopath.
And after a short time of doing that, though, yeah, his family all appreciate this. So this is really good. He says, but I'm just faking it. When you stubbed your toe and I asked, are you okay? Is it you saw, do you need me to help you or anything? I was just faking that. I said, that's okay, but you were trying. The fact that you cared enough to fit in, that you tried and faked it, that's what we like. Not that you actually did the action itself. And you went, oh, okay. This is, so it sent me down. So this is that he was unaware of his psychosis, but he has been able to logically, probably because of his background in neurosciences, determine that it is true and take an action. It's a little bit different to delusion, but as we can see, this guy at the end of the film confronts his demons and realizes when he wakes up that he was lost in himself.
Yeah.
And he was wrong. So that would be basis for thinking that he might be going on to either get treatment or to try and make amends or do something.
Yeah. And as you said as well, in Paradox, I mean, has this come on board because of like that trauma with his dad, and that's what the story seems to imply. So it's maybe not that he's totally affected by this the same way as someone with, like a psychopath or whatever, that is built into their brain. It's that he's had one of those experiences in his life that has then traumatized him, and he's gone down a path
shunted him out of reality a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I just saw that local paper, the two West Australian Mandurah women that they were part of that big fire that happened in Queensland. They were young girls at the time travelling, and the guy lit the backpackers hotel on fire, and he's coming up for parole, and they're saying, no, it's only been 20 years. He killed 15 people in this fire. But they said, like, they've still experienced that every day of their life. And so that's where I see a bit of resemblance here. It's like something that is so traumatic to you that then, your life your brain waves change, don't they? They're never the same again.
Well, it's interesting. They're looking at LSD for this, because originally LSD was being looked at as a therapeutic. And then, of course, it sort of got mixed up with the hippie culture, as it were, or whatever. I don't really know what happened in the 60s. I wasn't around. Which is how you know I was there. If you remember the 60s, you weren't really there. I don't remember it, so therefore I must have been there. Oh, wow, it's too heavy.
I've seen Forrest Gump.
But it's coming back. It's coming back now to be used because they've got a bit more study of what it does. And one of the things it does is it loosens up all the connections in your brain. Because one of the ways you remember things is by building stronger and stronger connections.
Yeah.
And one of the theories of PTSD is that you basically have this traumatic event which causes a type of pain in your brain, which lingers, and you think over it and over and over, and you actually burn it into your neural connections. Basically, get locked into this trauma pattern, so that you get these sudden, very real flashback feelings, which I guess range from just being that sort of an emotional feeling, suddenly feeling afraid and anxious and like you're going to die, without any real knowing, or even down to, I guess in the most extreme cases, some sort of hallucinatory or delusional type of activity.
Well, like the film, Like you're back in memory.
But they found that LSD, under various doses, basically breaks down all these connections, which is why you have these wacky hallucinations and you get these weird thought processing connections, and you see what you see. You get synesthesia. Is it synesthesia it's called? Where your hearing connects to your sight, and your nose, your brain gets confused, and so you hear music, but you see a visual effect of the music. And the same thing happens, so your memories and stuff all run together. And what they're looking at doing is basically getting someone on LSD with a therapist and using it then to lead them down and reinterpret their trauma so as to break out of that really harsh pattern. So they still, you're not going to forget such a thing. No. But the point is, it just becomes a normal memory, not an enhanced memory.
Not this major trauma,
Although personally, I found Long Island iced teas do the same thing. Totally forgot something.
Fair enough.
Don't know what it was.
No,
I don't drink Long Island iced teas anymore.
Right.
And I don't remember why.
Very interesting. Yeah, I keep doing that.
How about you? So we talked a bit about the technical filming. What one thing, if you could pick one thing out of this to take into your own filmmaking, what would it be?
It would be the lighting. Would be the lighting. Yeah. I think the lighting was really damn beautiful in this movie. I think I've been learning a lot about this and dabbling a bit with lighting in my photography, just for fun, and realizing that shadows and contrast play such a significant role in really pulling stuff alive. That stuff you were saying, that idea of the man drawing with the candlelight and stuff, the reason why it looked so good was the shadows, the shadows on his face. And when you talk about like a really like older people, you and I are older anyway, but like someone that's like a senior person, they've got all those lovely lines down their face, and so you put a candle here and you put a light above their head and you put a light behind and you take out all the light from behind, suddenly they look like it's almost extraterrestrial lighting of the person's face comes alive in different ways, and you can make people look sad and scary and happy and all those sort of things. But yeah, I think when I went to uni myself and did filmmaking, it was all about trying to light spaces, but it wasn't to what this film does in terms of like, those scenes are just magic. Like they really pop, the characters pop. The way that it's, giving us an impression of the setting just by putting lights here and there and not filling everything. It's really is a mastery of lighting. Whoever did the lighting on this film they are extremely well, experienced in that, I would say,
It's beautiful.
and then working with the director, working with the cinematographer to pull that off. So for me, it's the lighting. I think it was just really freaking beautiful.
Lovely. You just reminded me, there's another film for if you really like, sort of beautiful lighting shots and camera placement. It's not science fiction. It's Once Upon a Time in China. It's a Hong Kong film. And that's got some it's a historical piece of the opium and rebellion and stuff. But
I know of that movie. I don't. But
it's got a few of these great shots that sort of come in off the ground, and you see all the cobblestones, and the light glistening off them, and it looks just surreal. And there's a golden glow coming in out of a window at night time, and it sort of sweeps up in, and you just get taken away by these films. The movie itself is pretty good fun as well. There's a bit of kung fu action in there, and a decent storyline. But you really do notice the camera work and the lighting in that one too.
And it is interesting. I said at the start, earlier for this film, you can't really fault, the cinematography, the lighting, the way the shot has been put together is in the mise en scène, and as you said, the books that are all blacked out, and all of those kind of things are just really well done for this. And you need that to be really well done for your film to get anywhere. Really, you need all of those aspects playing out, because it is an art form. But it is interesting at times when you watch these films and you're like, wow, the camera does stuff that you haven't never seen before, like that thing that we keep saying with The Matrix, how they sort of did that bullet time effect that then everyone ripped off for the next 10 years. But it was like, wow, we haven't seen this before in a Hollywood film, so there's times that not only can things have great stories, but they also have something that's a little bit of extra movie magic. And for this film, it was, for me, the lighting.
The lighting, yeah, I think so. I'm going to agree on that one.
So let us know what you thought about In Paradox and what you thought about what we thought about and spoke about tonight on In Paradox on our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, website, the moon, wherever else you can find.
Space Brains Pod and Space Brains Podcast. If you search there at gravityundone.net, you'll find links to this podcast and others.
And you'll find our ladder.
Our ladder's going up there now, so you can see us as we go along. We're up to 32 or thereabouts.
Well, that's 26 non-classic movies.
Yes.
And then there's about 6 classics, isn't there? So we're rolling along now, Surrey. Quite a few episodes.
We're going to be bumping into that next classic soon. Next week's episode is The Platform.
Oh, The Platform.
It's another foreign language. I think it might be Spanish.
Okay.
It's about a futuristic prison.
Sounds good. And food, apparently.
And food. So we shall find out what future food looks like in a future prison.
Definitely. Thanks for listening, and hit us up on all our socials and let us know what you think. And until next time.
See ya.
Bye.